Well, What If has wrapped up its third season and officially ended, so the team can go on to ruin X-Men 1997 by making its second season. In fact, if you're watching this video, there's a good chance that you watched my video on season 3 and how it made me want to channel my inner rat and jump into a KFC deep fat fryer. Speaking of which, thanks to everyone who tuned in for that. It's my best video on the channel by far. I really appreciate the support, and if you'd like to support me further, please consider my Patreon or YouTube membership. I have a variety of tiers, so you can even just give a small amount and it would really allow me to spend more time on videos instead of being at work. But yeah, really appreciate all the support, thank you. Now, there's many problems with these different seasons. I outlined the problems that a lot of the episodes share in my first season critique. But one of the main problems that's present is that it insists on having a interconnected story, and of this problem, the thing that makes it worse is who they chose to be the main character, and that's Captain Carter. Now, when we're first introduced to Captain Carter, it wasn't too bad. She essentially took over Steve's role in that universe, gaining the super soldier serum, fighting the Nazis alongside Steve and the Howling Commandos, fighting Red Skull and his Hydra forces before getting trapped in a dimensional portal and reappearing 70 years later. Now, I don't mind her necessarily being able to take on this interdimensional being, merely for the fact that we don't see her kill this thing, and so she gets heavily exhausted just trying to briefly fight it off. In fact, it's heavily implied that from her perspective, she just went into the portal and then immediately escaped again when Fury activated the Tesseract, which would explain why she didn't age at all. So yeah, introducing Captain Carter with the super soldier serum being able to fight a very weakened monster into a portal wasn't too much of a stretch for me. The next time we see her is when the problems really start to get going, but to be fair, it's mostly a problem shared with everyone in the final episode, not just her. There's a being called Infinity Ultron, a Ultron with the power of the Infinity Stones, who is threatening to destroy the multiverse, and so the Watcher and Strange Supreme go around trying to find warriors to take Ultron on, and for some reason they picked Captain Carter. Now, as outlined in my season 1 critique, they could have picked literally any beings in the multiverse, but chose a Star-Lord that is a regular human, a undisciplined and therefore weaker version of Thor, a slightly more ruthless Gamora, and 2 enhanced humans, being Killmonger and Carter. Now, obviously this didn't make a lot of sense, considering I'm sure there's a Hulk or an Infinity War Thor or a Thanos or literally any other character besides these ones that would be able to fight a multiversal threat. But they chose this lot for some reason, Carter included. Again, this isn't a specific problem with her, it's just they used all the characters they had already introduced in this season, which unfortunately isn't a lot, and a lot of them aren't anywhere near powerful enough to take on someone with Infinity Stones. In fact, they had to make this version of Doctor Strange basically a godlike being to help the others in order to make this fight seem fair. Now, after the threat is dealt with, she is sent back to her universe, and in fact season 2 gave us another episode with her universe. Now again, this wasn't something I was inherently against. I would prefer to see other universes, but if they can tell a variety of new stories using the same universe, I was fine with that. And as such, this episode takes place around the same time the second Captain America film takes place. But because Hydra didn't manage to take over S.H.I.E.L.D. and because Bucky didn't become the Winter Soldier, instead becoming a very high-ranking member of S.H.I.E.L.D., things are heavily different here, showing us Captain Carter and Black Widow trying to take down a brainwashed Steve and the Red Room's army of Black Widows. It was a decent episode, and although I would have liked to seen spin-offs from different episodes of season 1, this one was perfectly satisfactory. Until the end, which sees Carter getting whisked away from her universe to go solve a problem in a different one. The reason why this happens is because that universe's version of Wanda Maximoff casted a ritual out into the multiverse, asking it to send a great and powerful hero to help solve the problems going on in their universe, which is causing time storms to appear and destroy everything in their path. Now, Captain Carter isn't the strongest MCU character, she isn't the smartest, and she isn't the most specialised in magic and cosmic anomalies, so the obvious question here is, why the fuck was she the character the writers decided to focus on? I'm sure there's plenty of people who are just as altruistic and hopeful as her that might have abilities that would better help solve the problem. But no, the writers decided that Captain Carter is the most important character in the entire franchise, which I'm sure has nothing to do with the fact they wrote her into the MCU, or any sort of political climate modern media has been forced under, so she gets another episode this season to fuck around and save the day. Now, in this anthology season that is designed to focus on different people in different episodes, we have now had 4 episodes of Captain Carter. It's gonna get worse from here. Also, she can just see the Watcher whenever she wants. Infinity, Ultron and Strange Supreme could see him when he didn't want to be seen, sure, but they were so powerful they could destroy entire universes. Captain Carter is, what, a human that's about twice as strong as someone at their physical peak? Which, forgive me if I'm wrong, but that's not a very high power level even on Earth, never mind on a universal / multiversal level. But no, she can just see a 5th dimensional being whenever she wants because she's just so awesome and great. She manages to solve the problem and restore the universe to its natural state, doing something that even the Watcher didn't think was possible. And then Strange Supreme shows up. Now, unknown to Carter and the audience, Strange has turned evil and is now going throughout the multiverse to find extremely powerful beings to sacrifice in his forge, which he hopes will restore the universe he accidentally destroyed. One of these beings, Kahori, managed to escape from Strange and go into a universe to hide. Apparently Strange is completely incapable of tracking Kahori down, despite being able to find her in the first place. And so of all the beings in the multiverse he could have recruited to track down an Infinity Stone powered individual that managed to conquer her entire world, he sent Carter after her, an above average human with a shield. Naturally, this sounds like bollocks, and it's very clear from this point on that Carter is going to be used for all manner of multiversal bullshit despite being on the bottom of the food chain and having nothing special about her whatsoever. Now, Strange sends her to a universe where Kahori is hiding in and the two get into a fight. Somehow, Carter manages to land a hit on an Infinity Stone powered being that moves at super speed and could just throw her through a portal into the middle of bumfuck nowhere, and she manages to take a few hits from her in return. The two stop fighting to talk things out and then they both get captured. Carter manages to destroy some of the prisons holding the beings Strange captured. Then, despite being in the same room as several dozen beings that can destroy universes, she somehow isn't immediately reduced to mush from all the fighting in the room. Randomly, they decide to stop in a room full of zombies, which includes a zombified Wanda. Remember how Wanda was so strong she could destroy an Infinity Stone and fight Thanos one-on-one and win? Well, here she attacks the two of them and Carter just shrugs off her blast. And unlike when she was fighting Infinity Ultron, here she isn't being supported by a cosmic magical god who can give her enhancements and protection spells. Here she can just shrug off attacks from another Infinity Stone powered individual, except unlike Kahori, Zombie Wanda is trying to kill her, so not sure how that would work besides the biggest plot armor you can imagine, which is a topic you might want to pay attention to for the rest of the video. She then proceeds to fight a army of zombies, and there's a moment at the beginning where she is completely surrounded by them and absolutely none of them manage to bite her on her exposed head. After Hela allows them to escape, she's then met by a Infinity Stone powered Thanos, who was then snapped away by the Killmonger who betrayed her multiversal team at the end of the last season and took the stones for himself. After Kahori neutralizes Killmonger, Carter takes his suit of Infinity Stone powered armor for herself. And I have absolutely no idea how she does this. Killmonger managed to create a suit of armor around himself by using a old Ultron drone to manipulate the nanomachines Infinity Ultron and his army were using, allowing him to control them and in this case, transferring the suit to himself and then using that to safely wield the stones. Here, Carter just touches it, and somehow despite having no experience with nanomachines or vibranium, the suit instantly forms around her so she can wield the stones. Almost like the plot just gave her the suit so they could advance the story. Her and Kahori fight Strange, which I think is fine. When others have wielded the stones, it seems that they instantly knew how to use them correctly, so I'm fine with her using them correctly in the fight. In fact, if anything, Strange is the one that isn't fighting the way he should, refusing to use a variety of tricks we've seen both this version and other versions use before, and therefore he struggles a lot during the fight, almost like they underpowered him to give the girl some plot armor. As Strange decides to start feeding the beings into the forge, they all start throwing their weapons and enchanted objects at the two so they can fight against Strange. And we get what is supposed to be a awesome girl boss moment, but it just kind of becomes ridiculous when you remember that Carter already has the stones, the most powerful thing in any universe. So having them act like Hela's helmet is supposed to give her an advantage is pretty ridiculous. Strange decides to unleash his full might on them and actually starts to win, until Carter decides to just pull all the Infinity Stones into her hand and punches him in the face. Yep, that's right, she just has Kahori throw all the stones into her hand and then she uses their full might without any consequences whatsoever. Hey, remember when we saw all those other people try to wield one Infinity Stone and they all died instantly? Well, Carter is just so cool and badass and inspirational that she can just use all of them whenever she wants without any consequences. The demons, the beings behind Strange's immense power, then get repeatedly punched and kicked by an unpowered Carter, and this somehow hurts them. You'd think what is essentially a demonic god that was so powerful it could end universes wouldn't be too fussed about a mortal woman punching him, but no, it really hurts them apparently. In fact, it hurts them so much that it also manages to snap Strange out of their influence as well, making him sacrifice himself and bring his universe back to life at the cost of his physical form. One wonders why they even gave her the Infinity Stones when all she needed to do was punch him in the face and she would have won instantly. Now, if you're already rolling your eyes at this and thinking there's no way they can get any worse, Season 3 is where it gets worse. After Season 2, Carter apparently has been going around forming a team to help fight against threats to different universes. Somehow they managed to defeat a Kang and steal his time ship, as well as invent their own ship that can travel across the multiverse. Her and her team, a bunch of cosmic beings including Kahori, a Mjolnir-empowered storm, and a bird-humanoid hybrid with powerful concussive blasts, attack a big monster that is threatening to destroy the planet. She manages to fight this thing, kill it with the help of her teammates, and then falls from the sky onto solid concrete. No new powers by the way, she still just has the super soldier serum, nothing to justify her being able to do all this, she's just given plot armor. She is later kidnapped by the Watchers because her and her team were trying to find a way to help Uatu escape his imprisonment. They weren't taken, mind you, the cosmic beings who were going to do the exact same thing Carter was about to do. They were left completely alone, but this mortal woman had to be removed from the equation instantly. In fact, they end up calling her the most dangerous thing Uatu has ever created by meddling with the multiverse. I mean, 2 seasons ago he accidentally made an Infinity Ultron aware of the multiverse, who then went on to try and destroy everything, but sure, Carter is the most dangerous thing, because she's just so cool and awesome and badass girl power, woohoo! So they manage to escape, and under a series of contrived bullshit, Uatu gives them powers from the 5th dimension which will allow them to fight the Watchers and stand their ground. Unfortunately, they do struggle in the fight, and eventually they unleash a wave that is going to wipe out not only them from existence, but wipe out every version of them that ever existed from the multiverse from existence as well. And out of all of these beings, Carter is the only one able to fight back against the Watchers. Like half of her body just get wiped out of existence, but she just brings herself back and somehow gets even stronger, allowing her to punch the Watchers so hard that not only does it stop them from fighting, but it sends them into another universe. The writers made her so powerful that she can just come back from nothing, as in she ceases to be but then just brings herself into existence again. And you know what, despite how nonsensical this all is, I was for a brief second going to give them some leeway, as apparently her doing all this was so strenuous it ended up killing her. But apparently Uatu can sense that even in the 5th dimension there's some sort of presence watching him, implying that she isn't actually dead and just ascended to another plane of existence so high that Uatu isn't even sure if she's watching him or not. Now, What If was supposed to be an anthology series, that's what it lists itself as, and it was described as a series that would look at different versions of events from what happened in the MCU, seeing how giving different outcomes to even the smallest choices can completely change the MCU. Unfortunately, every season decided that there had to be some sort of crossover event present, and so in order to do this they decided to have a character from one of the episodes take on a bigger role and become some sort of focal point for this storyline. And of all the people they could take on these multiversal and 5th dimensional adventures, fighting cosmic beings and gods, they chose a woman that is only really superior to a regular human, and that's it. And even then a normal human could just shoot her with a gun and she'd still die. So we have to watch this slightly above average mortal go through all this bullshit when there's so many other powerful, more interesting characters they could have chosen from. And yes, on top of everything, she's not that interesting. She's basically got the same personality and beliefs and ideals that Steve Rogers has. But while Steve was actually interesting because he had to make some questionable decisions and consequences over how he chooses to handle the Bucky situation and his relationship with Tony, here Carter just gets along with everyone and faces no real moral greyness or adversity in her personal life. She's just your typical all-loving, all-righteous, all-good Mary Sue. So at the end of the day, the reason I despise Captain Carter and her presence in the What If series and the MCU is the fact that she's so clearly a plot armor protected, morally correct Mary Sue who is never wrong, never really faces any personal adversity, and when faced with characters and beings that vastly outmatch her in every way possible, she still somehow comes out on top. And it's just a bit of a piss take that so much time and effort was put into her when they could have spent that time creating more interesting storylines and characters in what was supposed to be an anthology series. And it's just such a shame that now that she's dead, they've decided that the rest of this series is worthless, and so they've stopped making any more seasons, making you really feel like they've just wasted this entire premise. Thanks for watching, lads and lasses. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing and checking out some of my other videos. Sharing always helps, and if you're feeling really generous, please consider my Patreon or YouTube membership. I also have a Twitter and occasionally I do live streams. But most of all, I just hope you had a great day, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.